Good evening. I'm Mike McKee. I am the Associate Director for the Photonic Science and Engineering program at UCF in the College of Optics and Photonics, and you're joining the faculty forum that's with us and the College of Engineering and Computer Science. We're going to be able to take lots of questions from you through our Q&A feature that's built into Zoom. So if you all look down at the bottom of the screen, you're going to be able to see that there's a Q&A button. It is there that you're going to be able to ask questions, and then we can either answer those questions as we go through the presentation, or we can even gather them up and answer at the end of this hour. So first of all, the session's being recorded. The video will be shared through the pre-orientation platform that the students have access to. So if you don't know what that is, ask the students, and we're going to put it into the engineering section of the pre-orientation platform. That won't happen 5 minutes after the presentation's done. It'll happen later this weekend or early Monday. So you'll be able to go back and watch and also share with any others that may not have seen or been able to join us. And then another thing is that if you have any questions that are financial aid or university in general, we're going to have some other people that are waiting in the wings to be able to answer some of those questions. So in the interim, let's go ahead and get started with our first presenter, which is Dr. Manoj Chopra. He is the Associate Dean of the College of Engineering and Computer Science, and I'll toss over to him so he can give you more information about the college. Dr. Chopra.
Thank you, Mike, and welcome everybody. I am the Associate Dean, as Mike said, and my background is that I'm a professor of civil engineering, and this is my 30th year at UCF. So I've been here a while. I've seen us grow. However, this university has come a long way, both in academics and in athletics. If you are inclined towards athletics, we just had a milestone of joining one of the big conferences recently. But from an academic perspective, we've been very good from the beginning. And if you are looking at our college, which is the College of Engineering and Computer Science, it is really the founding college of the university, because this university was set up to support the space industry. And therefore, we have very strong engineering programs. I think you may know this already, but we have 6 departments and 11 degree programs. So we have civil, environmental, and construction engineering as a department, which are 3 programs: computer science and information technology, electrical and computer engineering, industrial engineering and management systems, mechanical and aerospace engineering, and then a new program that we've started recently, materials science and engineering at the undergraduate level. All of these have graduate versions as well. And we are accredited, and we're research active university. And that's important because you want to be in a place where cutting edge research is being conducted. You can connect with faculty. You can learn from not just the traditional classical engineering principles, but also applications to the newest areas of research and development. For example, AI, and I think Dr. Heinrich is in the computer science department, may mention some of those things. But going forward, our strategic areas of emphasis are around things that are of interest to everybody, whether it be AI, whether it be energy, or cybersecurity, or all of these areas that are of very high interest to us. So I say that because one of the first things I want you to think of as a student coming in is how will you chart your pathway through your 4 years at UCF. And I know in the beginning, it can be a little bit overwhelming, a new institution, new places to get around. Just remember one thing: while we're large, we have a lot of resources. And that, I think there are people here that will talk about resources or answer your questions about those. But there is a lot of help for anything that you need answers to, whether it be from advisors or from our student success folks, and many other places. So as you start your journey, make sure you get a strong foundation in your early courses, and then start thinking about how you're going to build on those. Whether you want to do some research in a faculty lab. Most of our faculty members are very active researchers, have either computational labs or what we call wet labs or experimental labs. And they're looking forward to having undergraduates and then graduate students eventually become a part of their research groups. So always be inquisitive, find out who's working in your area of research and find those faculty members, make those connections, even while you're taking courses. The other thing is, one of the advantages of UCF being in Orlando is the connectivity it provides with industry. And that results in either formal or informal internships or co-op programs. And I say both because we do have a very, very good experiential learning office that can connect you with all of the possibilities for internships and co-ops in the industry. But you can sometimes find things on your own. And a good way to spend a summer, if you're on track, summer is a good way to catch up if you fall behind in coursework or things like that. But also, if you're on track, a good way for you to spend the summer is to try to do some applied internships, and we encourage those. And that's the advantage of being in an environment such as Orlando, which is very, very vibrant from both industry, highest level of industry. You've got Lockheed Martin's, you've got the Harris Corporation, others. And then if you're in different disciplines, you may have consulting firms, you may have the government, the Department of Transportation. All of these opportunities exist for you to do internships. And then one other thing I want you to be aware of right from the beginning is, get to know the student clubs and organizations. These tend to be good social gathering places, but they're also professional gathering places. So you get a chance to meet engineers, computer scientists from the industry. They will come, you can network from the beginning. That's one way to get internships and eventually jobs. And it's another way to apply what you're learning into mini projects, whether it be in my area of civil engineering, it's the concrete canoe. The students build a concrete canoe and they go and race it against other schools. And if they do really well, they go nationally. So these are the kind of things, it's a lot of fun for those students to do all of that. And it teaches them project management and time management and financial management, all of the things that go around a simple project like that. Ultimately, it leads to what we call our capstone design. All of you will do some sort of a design at the end of your 4 years. And I keep saying 4 years, but I want you to stay within the 4 years if possible, and not make it 5 or 6. But at the end of your term at UCF, you will design something, or you build something, or write some code, which we call the senior design or capstone design. And so all of these little projects that you're doing with clubs and organizations will help you a lot. There are different kind of clubs. They may be in your major. They could be, SWEEP for women engineers. They could be SHIP for Hispanic engineers. There's NESB for Black engineers. These are specialized clubs, but they're also very, very good professional society clubs that all of our majors have. The last thing I'll say is try to connect with faculty members. They want to help you. I know that sometimes there is this wall that some people build that, okay, that's professor, if I don't ask intelligent questions, I will look back. No, absolutely not. I'm sure Dr. Heinrich will agree with me that, if you're not doing well and if you're not being successful, there are several resources that you have. The first one would be ask the faculty, I'm not understanding this concept, and explain it. There are office hours that you can go visit them. We have, peer tutoring called SARC, which we can provide you with that information as well. And then the other places that you can get help is always looking at, your fellow students. Always, if you're so inclined, work in groups, study groups, and we have built an environment, a physical environment, the atrium, where I see a lot of activity, a lot of people getting together on those tables. You can write on them, you can discuss ideas. And so that's where a lot of the ideas start and they germinate. And then you've got the innovation lab that we built, which is essentially our creative space where you can go and do 3D printing or build things. And those things quite often lead to, we've got a company that some of our students have now started called Limitless, where their senior design project of building an artificial limb or arm has become an actual company that they've floated. So there's a lot of things you can do and you can learn while you're here. So use your time well, learn, but have fun. And of course, I always give this warning as an associate dean, that engineering and computer science requires, and I think photonics will say the same thing, is requires a little bit more effort on your part in making sure you're studying, you're keeping up with the material, you are spending the time outside of the classroom with the material, preparing yourself for lectures, doing the homeworks on time. I know I'm preaching a little bit, I know, but I just want you to be successful. I want you to make good progress, because in my role, I often see people that are struggling. And I think Meena might talk about it later, but I'm just going to tell you that the most distasteful part of my job is to work with the progress policy people that get excluded because they're not doing well in classes and they are asked to leave our college. I don't want any of you to be in that position where you start accumulating a number of low grades. And then our college has this unique policy called the progress policy. And we'd rather not have you come in front of me and have a conversation about why. And then, then you have to be excluded and you have to come back in. Why? So let's not do that. So let's keep up with material. Let's work hard, but also make the best of your time with getting involved. I think that really should be our slogan: get engaged or get involved, because there are so many different opportunities for research, for internships, and for professional organizations. So I've sort of used up my time, Mike. I will be around for questions and answers later on, but I will send it back to you. Thank you.
Good, thank you. So I got a follow-up question. What's the one piece of advice that you give students that's really the big difference between high school and college?
It's using your independence intelligently. You've come into an environment now where you are more responsible for your progress, and the time you spend in the day. Just use it wisely. Have the fun. Enjoy your college life. I'm so glad that we're back in person again as much as possible. I know we do still a bunch of remote things, but we're not. There shouldn't be any impression here that we're going to do an online program. We're not. Engineering and computer science at UCF is not an online program. But the advantage of that is you're going to be back in person. You're going to do fun things together, real things together, and just use your independence. Don't squander it by getting distracted.
Great, thank you. Good advice.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move on to Dr. Mark Heinrich. And I got to look at my little notes here. He's the Associate Chair of Computer Science. He's got some good information to share. So Dr. Heinrich, you are up.
All right, thanks, Mike. Welcome, everyone. As Dr. McKee said, I'm the Associate Chair of Computer Science. I'm also the undergraduate coordinator for CS and IT. I've been here 20 years, so not as long as Dr. Chopra, 30, but 20 is still a pretty long time. If you've come to one of the open houses, you may have seen me talk before about CS and IT and a lot of the particulars of the curriculum and down to the level of courses and things like that. So that's not what I'm going to do today. If you have questions about that, though, I'm happy to answer those in the Q&A. And you can always email me at my last name, Heinrich, Heinrich, @ucf.edu. Easy email to remember. I'm happy to answer those kinds of questions. I absolutely know the answer, so feel free to ask me. For things like the flowchart, a quick Google of UCF computer science flowchart gives you the curriculum, or UCF IT flowchart. You'll get the curriculum on the first link. What I want to say today is a few words more about how to be successful in computer science, because you're coming to UCF, you're just starting your career in computer science or IT or engineering. I think it applies to any program in the college, not just CS or IT. And a lot of the things I was going to say, maybe not surprisingly, echo some of the things you just heard from Dr. Chopra. And I think the fact that we were both independently going to tell you some of the same things, hopefully maybe underscores their importance. So how do you're just starting out your college career, you were successful in high school, obviously. A little bit to Dr. McKee's question, what's different? How do you stay successful? What's the number one thing you do? It sounds silly, but the number one thing you have to do is go to class. You would be amazed at how many people don't get this right. right? So they think, oh, I have other things to do. Again, you have the independence, right? You don't always need, feel like, oh, it's early in the morning, I don't want to go to my 8 o'clock class. Go to class. I think Woody Allen said 85% of life is showing up. So there's an aspect of that to your college career too. Your professors are going to emphasize in class the material that they think is important, right? You can get the slides later maybe, but if the professor is good at what they're doing, they're telling you more than just on the slides. They're giving you a story there. You can tell by how much time they spend on each topic, what's going to be the most important thing that you need to make sure that you have right. And so there's no replacement for being in class. Oh, what's the other thing? Oh, you can ask questions, right? So you can get those questions answered right in class too. So that's really important. The second thing, just overall, is like what Dr. Chopra said, manage your time. You have a full schedule, 4 classes is a full schedule. That's why is it a full-time student, 4 classes? Because every professor thinks that you're spending 10 hours a week in their class. Think about that for a moment, 10 hours a week. So class time itself is just 2.5 hours, right? So there's all this other time, right? And why 10 hours? Because 10 times 4 is 40 hours full time, right? So it's the same kind of notion. So that's the expectation, right? That you're going to be going to class, you're going to be going home, reading the textbook, ideally doing the reading for the class before you go to class so that you've got the reading done already. And now you're sort of seeing it and looking at examples. So you're doing reading, you're doing homework, you're doing projects, you're talking to other students, etc. So really putting in that time is important. And what it means, if you're doing 40 hours a week, that's your full-time job. Your full-time job as a student. I hope that you don't have another full-time job, because that would be 80 hours a week. Now, some students have to do this, and I can understand that, but you really want to try not to do this. In fact, even a part-time job, 20 hours a week, you're committing yourself if you're working part-time, because you're going to go to those 20 hours, right? You're absolutely doing those 20 hours in your job. That's 60 hours a week. And if 60 hours a week starts to become too much, what's going to get cut? Guess what? It's never the job. You're always cutting into the academic part, right? And that has consequences, right? So if you're going to work part-time, just realize that. Be self-aware. It's like, I'm committing myself to 60 hours. And it's even more than that, because you're 20 hours of your work time, right? You got to commute to work, you got to come back, right? So there's other things that are going on. So that can really cut in to your academics. So just be very careful about working during the fall and spring. Internships, co-ops, those things are great. In CS, it's typically more internships. My advice, as Dr. Chopra said, keep it to the summer, right? You got a whole summer. You can go make absurd amounts of money, either in state or in Silicon Valley. You can make 20K a summer on your internships, right? And don't take any classes, come back in fall and spring, stay on track. And if you need the money, it's like, hey, it's such a large amount of money over the summer. Maybe that means you don't need to work fall and spring like you thought you had to, right? And you can focus your time on academics. So those are the 2 big things, right? Manage your time, go to class. As Dr. Chopra also said, go to office hours, right? It's not a sign of weakness, right? In fact, it's a sign of strength. You were smart enough to realize, who can help me if I'm struggling in this class? Oh, I don't know, maybe the professor, right? So professors are people too, right? Turns out we're actually human, right? And we have dedicated hours every week where we just sit in our office and wait for people to come in. Well, if people don't, we do other things, but we're waiting for you, right? And we want you to come in. I can think of one of my most successful students I can think of over 20 years. She came to my office hours. I had them right after class. She came every day, right? And she would start with something like, she'd say something nice to me first, like nice lecture or something, just to kind of maybe butter me up. But then she would say, I understood everything. I just had one question. And she'd flip through the notes and she said, on this slide, I didn't understand this thing. And I'd be like, oh, here you go. Like literally, she was there 45 seconds and then she'd walk out. Right? That was it, 45 seconds. But it cleared up exactly what she was confused about, and now boom, not confused anymore, right? So don't let these things fester. Don't, ask for help, right? Ask for help. It's okay. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength, right? And it's going to help you with your time, because if you don't ask, you get behind, you struggle, all right? And then things can kind of snowball. Just nip that in the bud. So go to office hours. Why else should you go to office? Oh, am I done, Mike? Okay. I'll speed it up. You're at a tier 1 research.
Make your last point. Yep.
Okay, you're at a tier 1 research university. So get to know your professors. You'd be remiss also if you went to class went home, got an A, went home. Go meet your peers, right? They are outstanding individuals here at this university with you. Get involved in clubs, the programming team, the cyber team, the AI club, the ACM, hackathons, Joust. Learn from your peers. Find your people, right? That's part about being an undergrad is, and that's going to help you be successful as well. One more thing, work on projects outside of class in computer science. You're not in biology. You don't need a wet lab. You need a laptop. You have one of those. You can work from home. You're going to be able to hone your skills. There's only one way to get better at programming. Program, right? So get involved, start working in projects. Those projects can go right on your resume. They can help you land jobs and internships just like your classes can. Hopefully you like CS. That's why you're chosen to be a CS or IT major. So don't just say it, show me. Show me you like it by doing these kinds of projects. So that's my final bit of advice.
Go to class, correct?
Go to class.
Go to class. Yeah, that's
Very
what we're
simple.
trying to drill in, because we know how everybody did with the pandemic, and go to class. Okay, thanks. And he will be appearing at Improv Comedy tonight at 8 o'clock in downtown Orlando. There you go.
I'm here all week.
All right, thanks. Okay, next up we have Dr. Patrick Lee-Kim-Wah. He is the Associate Dean of the College of Optics and Photonics, which we also call CREOL, and that's where I am. So I'll toss over to Dr. Lee-Kim-Wah.
Thank you, Mike. So basically, Dr. Chopra and Dr. Heinrich has already told you everything that you need to know. And I don't know what I am going to tell you about anymore, but again, I want to reiterate what they have told you, basically that if you want to be successful, you have to go to class. But also very important, like what Dr. Heinrich has said, is you have to spend time outside of class on the subject matter that you have just been studying. In other words, you have to do the assignments, you have to do the homework, you have to read the material and everything that you have, that the professors have told you. And if there's anything that you do not quite understand, reach out to the professors. They are there to help you. None of the professors will push you away. In fact, they are all eager to help you be successful. So what I'm going to do to spend my time is give you a brief history of how CREOL came to be about. Let me share a short presentation. As I said, my name is Patrick Lee-Kim-Wah, and I am the Associate Dean at CREOL, and I have been there since 1989, almost at the very beginning of CREOL. CREOL, oops, how do I move it? Oh, okay, I think I can just, all right. So let me give you a very brief history about how we came to be. It all started sometime in the mid-80s, about 1985, when a group of influential leaders from the Central Florida lasers and electro-optic industry, they enlisted the help of Dr. Ron Phillips, who then was a prominent professor in the electrical and computer engineering department. And together, they lobbied the Florida legislature for the creation of a research center at UCF, whose primary mission was to train engineers and scientists who would then be the workforce for the industry around Central Florida. Well, the legislature heard them and was in accord, and therefore they actually created a separate budget that was appropriated for this exact endeavor. And Dr. Phillips then went out to hire the people that would start CREOL, and he just managed to hire 3 faculty members from North Texas State University to lead this effort. And in 1987, CREOL was founded, and it was founded by Dr. M.J. Swallow, our original founder, and he created the acronym CREOL, which at that time stood for the Center for Research in Electro-Optics and Lasers. But then after a couple of years, we at UCF became the School of Optics. And we decided then at the time that we would make a slight tweak to the acronym CREOL. It was still stayed CREOL, but CREOL now stands for the Center for Research and Education. We found that we felt that it was so important to have that word in there because we exist at UCF to educate the workforce of Central Florida. So we became the Center for Research and Education in Optics and Lasers. So as you can see, it still stands as CREOL. Well, we didn't stop there. And in 2004, the School of Optics then became the College of Optics under its first dean, Dr. Eric Stralen, who was also one of the original founders of CREOL. And not to stop there, in 2013, in fall of 2013, our undergraduate program in photonic science and engineering was started as a joint program with the ECE department under our then new dean, Dr. Baha Saleh. And so that's how we became, that's how we came to offer the undergraduate program in photonic science and engineering. And again, it's a joint program with the ECE department. So today, at CREOL, we stand at about 33 faculty members with something like about 10 more coming. And actually, I know that ECE and the College of Computer Science and Engineering are also increasing the faculty numbers. That will make things a little bit easier for us. We have somewhere close to about 19 joint faculty in the department. We have about 35 research scientists and postdocs, and we graduate about 20 PhDs, 25 master's degrees, and 35 bachelor's degrees per year. We produce about 210 journal papers, and we have about 20 million in external funding for doing the research. So that means that you actually have opportunities to interact with the faculty, with the research scientists, and to do research as well whilst you are studying for your undergraduate degree. And CREOL has several major strengths. I would say the major strength is in its people, the faculty members, the students. The students are our number one strength. And then we have also major facilities. For example, we have facilities for doing fiber optics fabrication. We have a laser range, which we can test a large number of different type of research using high power lasers and its propagation in atmosphere. We have laboratories for doing optical materials. We have laboratories for doing nanophotonics, integrated photonics, as well as we have a facility for ultra-fast lasers as well. We are ranked at number 9 in the US for optics by the US News World Report. And that actually turns out to be that we are number 4 in public universities in the whole country. Our alumni are leaders in the photonics industry, and we are now, our bachelor's degree is now starting to grow with more of you guys interested in optics and photonics. So why should you be interested in optics and photonics? It's basically a kind of a branch of electrical engineering, if you want. As I said, our big resource is our people, and our faculty are ranked amongst the top 2% of all scientists in terms of a ranking called the Stanford ranking, which ranks them by their production of papers, publication, materials, and citations by other scientists. So 22 of our faculty are actually ranked as in the top 2% in their respective fields. Our bachelor's in photonic science and engineering is an ABET accredited program. And one of the at the latest review that we had for the ABET, one of the things that they said about this program that they highly appraised us was the fact that most of our courses are taught by our faculty, the full-time faculty at Creole. And we also have a capstone senior design, which is held jointly with the electrical engineering department. We have a program in master's, MS in optics and photonics, as well as a PhD in optics and photonics. As I said, the reason we exist is because of the photonics industry in Florida. And in Florida alone, we have about 148 photonic companies that employ about 16,000 people. And their total annual revenue is on the order of about 4 billion. And in the Central Florida region alone, we have about 106 of these companies. So 106 out of the 148 photonic companies are actually in Central Florida. And the revenue is in Central Florida is about 2.2 billion annual. And we have a strong collaboration with industry. These are the list of our industrial affiliates. These are companies that are closely associated with our programs. And you can see names like Meta, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, and other names such as L3 Harris, as well as Raytheon and others. And our faculty actually, as well as some of our students, have actually started companies on their own. So one of the things that is important is that when we create, when we do research and we create new ideas and new technologies, it's important to actually bring these technologies into the marketplace and then to actually create more opportunities for people to actually be employed in those companies. So as you can see, we have several companies that have been created by our own faculty, as well as some of our graduate students as well who have created these companies. Some of them have Crystal Photonics is still around, is employing about 300 people. And we have Optigrade, which was which is again is still here. We have Beam as well, and we have other companies that that come and go. And some companies have become public, have become public companies and have been bought by other public companies, which is how these things go about. So our vision is to be the world leader in education, research, innovation, and partnership in optics, lasers, and photonics. And of course, if you want to have, if you want to have more information, if you want to see more about Creole, you can always go log on to our website, and from there you can. And if you have any other questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. I will always be available to answer any questions that you have, even if it's not today. I guess this is what I have for you guys.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for the information. And of course, that's a program that I run. So of course, I love it. Okay. All right. Thanks, Dr. Leekemwa. Really appreciate it. All right. So I'm going to bring in Mina Turner, and Mina is the director for the College of Engineering and Computer Science, and she's in the Academic Affairs Office. And as she's coming in, I want to say that one of the things that we want to point out is that the academic advisors are really here to help with navigating through the very large university that we have. And one of the things that I want to point out is that at a high school, you may have been in contact, maybe not, with guidance counselors. So our role is actually very different than the guidance counselors. And unfortunately, sort of what's happened with guidance counselors in the high schools is they've been relegated to a little bit of testing oversight. What we do is really help you clear the barriers to learning and making sure that you can focus 100% on your academic studies. And so if there's any issues that come up in terms of, catalogs and policies and what classes I take, we are here to help. So I'm going to pass over to Mina now, who will be able to talk a little bit more about the role of academic advising. Mina, you're up. And I'll
Thank you,
stay on
Mike.
because we're both doing this.
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect. My name is Mina Turner. I'm the director of the Academic Advising Office for the College of Engineering and Computer Science. And I've been in the advising family at UCF for over 20 years. My team and I have the privilege of assisting students as they transition from their previous institutions, whether that's high school or if you're transferring from a different institution. But we help from the time that a student arrives at UCF to the big exciting day at the end where they graduate and they leave us, and we're here for you in all the days in between. Our initial point of contact with most students is during orientation, and several of you have attended orientation already. And for those of you who haven't, we're very excited that you'll be attending sometime this summer. The orientation is a lot of group activities, and our main focus during that period is to help students build a schedule for their first term at UCF. During a student's time at UCF, our advising team encourages students to meet with advisors on a regular basis, which usually means at least one time per semester. And the college has a really strong advising structure, which students are very familiar with once they start, where we have a team of general academic advisors within the academic affairs office. We have specialty advisors in each one of the specific departments, and we also have a great team of faculty advisors who work with undergraduate students to assist them with the things that they need while they're here. And our main goal is to make sure that students have a pathway to graduation, and each one of those pathways and plans are individual. But we want to build those plans. We want to make sure that each semester a student has a realistic schedule, a well-balanced schedule. And as Mike has said, we want to identify resources for the students to help them overcome any challenges or barriers that they're going to face during that semester. And as Dr. Chopra mentioned, we want to focus on helping students be successful each term so that they don't run into any issues with policy at UCF. But if they do, again, advisors, in addition to faculty members, are a great resource on campus for students to reach out to. So I will hand it back over to Mike to see if he would like to add on anything to the advising topics.
Yeah, so I think we'll go back and forth about on this a little bit. One of the things that's come up is this whole thing of like how many hours a week do you study? Because I think this is the big difference between high school and college, is that in high school, I mean, a lot of you are probably in AP, IB dual enrollment, and the teachers are crazy, right? They will control your lives. But remember, you're in school about 35 to 40 hours a week. So a lot of the studying occurred in the school. And so you might have had some homework to do afterwards, but a lot of times ask students, how many hours do they study in high school? And I get this answer a lot, 0. And so what we recommend is this 3 to 1. So if you're taking 15 credits, you should be studying 45 hours a week. And the reality is, yes, you go to class because you need to know what is the important information, because yeah, you could get a book, but the book does not distill the information in a way that is important and meaningful. And so you get to interact. And then you also have the psychological advantage of being in a classroom where you're all doing exactly the same thing, in that you're engaged in this behavior of studying. But that's not actually where the learning takes place. The learning takes place by then going home, working at operating with that knowledge, which means in engineering, you are solving the problems, you're doing the problems, you're working the problems over and over and over again. So you develop the muscle memory so that you can then solve new and novel problems, unlike tests. Because sometimes you hear from other students go, well, that was not in the class, that question that was on the test. It's because you didn't operate with the material long enough so that you could identify and solve problems correctly that are new and novel. And so it's the same thing as a musician. A musician practice over and over and over again. It's the same thing in engineering. You have to work with those problems over and over and over again, and then you'll be successful. And then we're all happy. So that Mina and I are not having to deal with students that are unhappy, right? So Mina, I got a question. So what would be your advice for students? Let's say in their first semester, because I think this is important for the students that are on the webinar right now.
Ooh, that's a great question, Mike. I would say to be proactive. The UCF is a huge institution, but get ahead of things before they might become an issue. So whether it's scheduling your advising appointments, whether it's working with professors during office hours, sometimes it's trying to get things done at when it's too late doesn't work. So I would say be proactive when you can. Plan ahead.
Okay, so we can open it up to questions. And so again, at the beginning, I mentioned that down at the bottom of the Zoom window, there is a Q&A. There was actually already one question that was asked, and it was about where's this going to be? And I answered that. So if you do have any other questions while we're talking, then you can drop those in and we're going to be able to respond. And we do have a representative from financial aid if there's any questions there. While we're waiting for questions to come in, is there anybody on the panel that might have any comments to add? And I see Dr. Heinrich has got something.
Yep. Surprise, I always have more to add. I love the question you asked, Mina. So I just want to remind the students one bit of advice. What can they do to, again, be successful and be prepared? Read your email, right? So we would be surprised at how often you send an email that tells you exactly what you need to do for step X, Y, and Z. And then a student just, they're not in the habit of checking email because they're doing other social media things now, whatever the young kids are doing. But we're old and we still use email, right? So get in the habit. When you're a student, check your email. There's scholarship opportunities that come via email. There's announcements of industry company visits. Hey, Google's coming to campus. They're in HEC 101 tomorrow night. How do you know these things? Well, they're all in your email, right? So just get in the habit of doing that, and it's gonna, avoid maybe some unnecessary stumbling or miscommunication. So
I think that's great advice. And I'm going to add to that because when you go work for Lockheed or Boeing or Google, you can't say, hey, listen, just send a chat to me, right? Or post it on social media. They're going to send it through secure communications within the company, and that's email. So getting into that habit is going to be very important. So I think that's a very important habit to start. Okay, for the rest of the panel, are there any other important habits that you think students should be working with right now, or at least developing right now?
I mean, I always have more. So one more thing I would say,
Yep.
right? If there is a question in the chat I see, but one bit of advice I'd say overall, it's never too early. I think sometimes you're a freshman, you're focused just on the class piece or whatever, but we've talked about all the opportunities at UCF and they're there for the taking, but you have to go take them, right? So you have to go, find out where does these clubs meet? Where is the programming team? Where is the ACMW? Where is the AI club? Where is the robotics team? And you have to kind of find these things out in some ways on your own. So be willing to explore and go do that. And again, think about outside the classroom. Ultimately, so I started a couple companies in my life, and so I put on my hiring hat where I'm going to hire you someday. I know you're probably not thinking about that right now because you're just starting college, but your parents are worried about this, right? So if I'm hiring you, look, I got a bunch of resumes here. It's a big stack. They all have 3.8s. I got 50 of them. Who am I hiring? Which one do I hire? Right? So I'm hiring the one. I'll just answer the question for you. I'm hiring the one with the best story. What's your story? Who are you? Like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? So what is your story? So start thinking about that right when you start. What's your story? What are the things you want to accomplish when you're at UCF? What do you want that story of you to be, right? And ultimately, your resume is just going to be a reflection of that, right? You figure out the story first, then you write your resume, not reverse, right? And so just start thinking about what you want to do and building that story. And that's what's going to differentiate you from everyone else with a 3.8, because everyone's got a unique story, right? A lot of people have 3.8s, but everyone's got a unique story, and that's what's ultimately going to get you hired. That's what's going to make you stand out.
Okay, great. Thanks. We got a question in here. Can you talk a little bit about the aeronautics and robotics learning opportunities? I'm not sure if that would be Dr. Chopra or not.
Yeah, I'm here. Before I do that, I just want to say one point that Mark brought up earlier about email. I'm trying to do focus groups on finding out from students what's the best way we can communicate with you, because it keeps evolving and I want to know what works for you the best. And the other thing I just want to warn you is social media, particularly Reddit and other places that I think a lot of people are getting used to, often has good information, but mostly has the wrong information. An advisor is probably a better resource for you to get the right information. So yeah, it's a good starting point to get your answers. And we're out there. I'm out there helping as much as I can, anonymously, of course, so that you don't know that it's coming from up high. But I'm trying to correct anything that I feel is misinformation out there, and try to help people guide them to the right place. Okay, aeronautics and robotics are two different places on our campus, in our college. Aeronautics or our aerospace engineering department, which has aeronautics as a part of it, is one of our strongest programs, both from the academic perspective and the application, whether it's the Space Coast or number of opportunities to do aeronautics. Robotics is fairly new. It's more of our electrical and computer engineering department, although you have to write a lot of code to control systems, etc. So there's an overlap with computer science as well. And so robotics is emerging. We're actually establishing a brand new lab in robotics where we're going to do all kinds of very creative things on campus. Back to you. Mike, you're, yep.
Yeah, I forgot. Okay, now I remembered. Thanks for that. There's a question here, Dr. Chopra, that might still be for you. As a transfer student who was admitted later in the summer and is having trouble with finding housing options, what are the possibilities for online learning in the first semester?
Online learning, actually, Mark would be the best person, because I think the only courses that we have online tend to be our computer science courses. Meena, you can correct me if I'm wrong. There's a misunderstanding here of online education and modality. Let me just say, first of all, if you talk about online learning, the assumption is the entire course and all of its content can be delivered online, and you can be remote entirely. That's what we call online. Modality changes because we could have somebody, a faculty member who's teaching a course using Zoom effectively. Could be what we call half and half. And I'm not going to get into all the terminology. You'll learn that later on. But you could have 20% of the time being spent in class and the rest being online, and so on. Very few, I'm sorry, Reagan, but very few of our courses, if any, are fully online. And that, it was temporary for maybe just the spring of 2020 and the summer of 2020, because fall 2020, we started to gradually come right back. And then by 2022, I think we're fully back on campus. So yes, housing. Mark, I don't know if you can address the issue of if there's any resources we can provide for housing help for people that are fairly late in the process. And Mark, you can go ahead and, Mark Gumbel, I meant, sorry about that. Mark, I know you're there. If you can just sort of chime in, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello. My name is Mark Gumbel. I serve as the Assistant Vice President for Student Success and Wellbeing, and housing is one of the areas that's in our division. I will put in the chat a website that is designed for UCF students to find off-campus housing. it is a tight market, and we've experienced this in the last year and a half where the competition for housing has increased. However, students that are proactive and utilizing this website are finding themselves to be successful. I can also put in, when I put that link in there, my email address. So if anyone is having difficulties with that, with finding housing, I can help you with that, how to best navigate that website, because there's different ways to utilize that website to find housing. So look for me to put that into the chat and to assist you in that matter there.
Perfect. I'm so glad you're here to address that, Mark. Mike, I'm just going to go ahead and take Torrance' question next.
Yeah, great.
I'm making an assumption here that you're a first time in college, or what we call an FTIC. We have a perfect solution for what you are looking for, which is your first semester, your fall semester will have a course called Introduction to Engineering. And we started this, I was one of the people that started in the mid-90s on why we need this course is because some of you may be still exploring what major works best for you. And therefore, this course is sort of a exploration of majors courses within engineering. And we'll have presentations about each of our engineering disciplines, majors that I mentioned earlier to you. And you may be thinking right now that you really like environmental engineering because you're chemistry oriented. But then you take a few courses and say, well, no, I really like photonics, or I like, electrical engineering. And this course will give you an idea of what those are, in addition to doing projects and fun things in this course. So Intro to Engineering class, which is our 1006, we call it, that will be your exposure to the different disciplines. And of course, we are here, Mina and I are here to help you make that decision if you're not sure.
Great. And I think this next question is going to be a split question for Dr. Chopra and Dr. Lee Kim-Wah, and it's about, are there any of the companies that are coming in and really sort of doing advising on keeping the curriculum current within the majors?
I'll let Patrick go first. I've been speaking. Go ahead, Patrick.
Not that we have an advisory committee that is made up of leaders in several companies, and some of them are from our alumni, that kind of give us advice on how they perceive our curriculum is going. But I think that what this student is asking, what Sundar is asking, is whether we will have companies coming in-house to present to students as to what they should focus on in their curriculum that would prepare them to the future. There are always people from companies that come to present seminars and the like. And this is an opportunity for you, if you're interested in any kind of technology, to attend those seminars and then ask the presenter afterwards what he would advise you that you should concentrate on in your curriculum to help you prepare if you're interested in that field, So always look out for, there are so many seminars that are going around, both in electrical engineering, in computer science, in optics and photonics, and if there's something that catch your attention, attend those seminars and get more information from the presenter.
Yes, Dr. Lee Kim-Wah said it exactly what I was going to say. The only thing I'll add is in our college, we've established something called the Leadership Institute. There's ELI Square is what we call it, Engineering Leadership. But that has seminars, and we bring in people that are very high up in all of these big tech and other companies to talk to you as students about what they value and their own experience going through their curriculum. And so you'll get an idea what is on the mind of our leaders in all of these different industries right now. And then I go back to what I said about professional societies. As Dr. Lee Kim-Wah said, these societies are always having meetings and seminars, and the people they bring in these seminars can give you an idea. You can ask a lot of questions. We also have an office of career services and experiential learning, where there's a lot of programming where these companies will come on campus, even in the arena, big arena, and you can go talk to them about what you do. So yeah, it's a two-way thing. Don't just go to these and hand out your resume. You can have conversations with these people. And if there are only the HR people there, Shivram, then go ahead and say, can I connect, directly or through LinkedIn with some of the engineers that I want to ask some questions? They will be very eager to help you with that.
Great, thanks. I'm going to toss the next question to Mina, and it's about any advice for older students who are going to be commuting to campus every day.
I would definitely say if it's your first semester, maybe take a reduced course load. Don't try and go full time in your first semester if you have a long commute, because as everybody has mentioned, faculty are expecting a lot of outside hours of class study time. So I would say take a reduced course load. Work with your advisor to see if there are any options for you to take transient courses at other institutions. If you're in some of the lower level courses, sometimes that's an option as well. And build your schedule up slowly.
And I'll also say, don't get to class at 9 o'clock if you have a 9 o'clock class, because you will not find parking. So if you have a 9 o'clock class, you should probably get there at 8. The last couple semesters have been weird because we've been, it's been sort of post-COVID and everything, but normally the first couple weeks of classes, if you have, even not even the first couple weeks of classes, if you have a 9 or 10 o'clock class, you will not find parking if you're expecting to get there about 10 minutes before classes start. So if you got to commute, get there early, and then you study on campus, get some coffee, there's microwaves all over the place and everything. So sort of crash in a building and you can study before your classes. And then I think that's going to be the final question, and this might be for Mina and myself. Considering that classes are hard in these majors, where should I be prioritizing my time?
Can I chime in there too?
Yes, and you'll take the last answer before we head off.
I would say that make sure that you do the assignments and hand them back on time. And if you have any kind of a trouble with the assignments, because that signifies that you did not quite understand what the professor was talking in class, it's time to go and talk to the professor. The professor always have office hours, and they would be willing to talk to you. They would be happy to talk to you and explain to you how these problems are solved. So a lot of engineering is about solving problems and solving real life problems, and it's important to understand the concepts behind it before you try to solve them. And don't just try to memorize equations, because that's not what it's about. And I find that a lot of students think that they can just get a list of equations and just decide which numbers to put in for what variable, and that works for some time, but not all the time. So start doing the assignments right away, and immediately go and see the professor if you find that you're having trouble.
Excellent. So I think that's a great way to end it. I'd like to thank everybody on the panel for giving up their Friday evening, and I'd like to thank everybody for joining. And this video again will be posted into the pre-orientation platform probably on Monday, and you'll find a link to the first year experience YouTube channel where you'll be able to go back to this and see all the comments and everything. So with that, everybody have a great weekend, and welcome to UCF.
Go Knights.
All right, John.
There you go. We got to learn how to say that. Folks. Come on, welcome on board.
All right. Have a good evening.
Bye, guys. Ooh.
Are we clear, David?